Hi, welcome to another edition of Cambridge Inside Out. My name is Robert Winters.
Hello, my name is Susana Sagat. Come closer to me, Robert.
All right.
There we go.
There we go. Why do we look like American Gothic somehow? I should have a pitchfork or something.
I am not your sister.
All right. Well,
maybe it's the clothes. We should get rid of this curtain.
Yeah.
We should have a survey to have the people watching suggest whether we should get rid of the curtain or not.
I like that. Yeah. All right. Let's see. So what do we got up to? We don't have a guest today. All right. So that's one thing.
You're stuck with us.
Maybe I should sort of tip off who we're going to have next week, since I think that's
let's keep it secret.
Want to keep it a secret?
No, tell people.
All right. As many of you know, we borrowed our name, Cambridge Inside Out, from...
no, we took it. With permission. It wasn't a borrowing. It's like we're using it.
We did ask. We got a bit of a blessing last year for that from a show that once existed called Cambridge Inside Out. It ran for, 11 years, something like that?
But the beauty of that show is that people sat around in a circle, and we weren't like, everyone didn't have to look at the camera like we did. It was a very sophisticated show.
Serious production staff.
Serious production.
But anyway, the sort of principal host of that was a gentleman named Glenn Kuchar, former, like Susana, a former school committee member, and kind of, at least in some of our minds, a local star.
A star. Yeah.
So anyway, we asked Glenn if he'd come on. And
unless he changes his mind, so he will be here next week.
So if all goes well, next week we'll be the guests on Cambridge Inside Out with Glenn Kuchar. So anyway, we're looking forward to that. So I thought maybe what we do, just to, since this will be more of a kind of news and commentary sort of week, I dare say, I just mentioned a few things happening around town, or which has just happened around town. First thing I want to say is this past Saturday, they had this really great event called Fresh Pond Day, which has been now going on for, 15 or more years, but every year it gets bigger and better. And, it was up at Fresh Pond, beautiful day. It was, rain was threatened, but everybody wished the rain away, and it was great. For me, it's almost like a reunion when you go to these events. I see all these people who I've seen either as just citizens or city workers, who are all up there, so doing their, plying their trade, and it's just like going to a high school reunion in a lot of ways. So I had a great time. A lot of kids everywhere. It was a wonderful, wonderful event.
And Fresh Pond, it's under construction now, so you wonder, well, should I go because it's under construction or not? But you walk in there and it's beautiful. I walked the other day to Fresh Pond, and all of a sudden I turn a corner and I see 4 swans. Right. 2, and then the geese with their little babies, and
a partridge in a pear
and no,
tree.
I didn't know, and no owl either.
No owl.
That owl's gone.
I heard about that.
Those 4 beautiful swans. It's really gorgeous place.
No, it is. They're doing a reconstruction or renovation of the Kingsley Park area, and that's. I don't know how long that'll actually take, but
until September.
Until September, but it should be really great.
Area by the parking lot.
Yeah, it's like a prominent. It's actually once upon a time was where the Fresh Pond Hotel was located historically. Years ago, many years ago, back in the previous century, I remember it well.
Mr. Thoreau used it before going to the Walden Hotel.
Now speaking of...
so that was a good event, and next year it's going to be just as good.
That's right. Now, some events that are coming up real quick. Actually, this Saturday is the Cambridge River Festival. That's June 7th.
They've shut down Memorial Drive.
Well, no.
No?
There's conflicts because of bridge construction and other conflicts. This is the 35th annual Cambridge River Festival, and this year it's not being held at the river.
Where is it?
It's being held in Central Square. Sort of a river of humanity. How about that?
Good.
Did that sound sufficiently poetic?
Yeah, I'm sure it's very easy to shut down the streets in Central Square.
Well, we do it every once in a while. We've had things like Central Square World's Fairs and whatnot. So I asked about it last night, and I believe Massachusetts Avenue from Prospect Street all the way down to Sydney Street, and then we turn the corner, and Sydney Street all the way from Massachusetts Avenue down to Erie Street. Multiple stages, lots of music, lots of vendors, food, you name it. So let's sort of hope for good weather.
It used to be nice to see the river.
And I'm sure next year we'll
So
be back on the river.
because the bridges are shut down, it makes it harder?
There's a lot of construction-related things going
that's
on.
true.
It just sort of breaks it up. And,
Yep.
and also they can't divert the traffic because of the closure in the way that they would normally have to
Yeah, I
do.
know it's missing.
So anyway, that's this Saturday, noon to, noon to 6, all right?
That's a fun event.
That morning, by the way, I might as well, as a public service announcement, mention that if you have any hazardous waste around the house.
Oh, I love Hazardous Waste Day.
They're actually having
Twice a year.
Actually,
Three
at
times a
least
year now?
3, yeah. And this time, usually it's up in the Armory, up on Concord Avenue, but this time, no. This is special. Their Hazardous Waste Day, this June 7th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Volpe Transportation Building in the parking lot of 55 Broadway down in Kendall Square. So
Oh, that is a big difference.
that is a big difference.
Tell us where it is again.
It's at 55 Broadway, better known as the Volpe Transportation Site, right down in the heart of Kendall Square. So again, that's this Saturday as well. And my favorite upcoming event at all, for those who are really interesed in city.
The dance, the city
Well, no.
dance?
No.
Sorry.
I'll get to that first. Tomorrow, June 4th, at 5:30.
10 days before Flag Day.
That's right. There's a meeting of the City Council Ordinance Committee where they will be taking up a proposal to prohibit the use of wild and exotic animals in traveling shows and circuses. It sounds pretty goofy, but it's actually happening.
Say that again?
I don't. It'll be there is a proposal. It wasn't.
Yeah, just read it again.
It's called to prohibit the use of wild and exotic animals in traveling shows and circuses. Now, if this goes through, I don't think it's going to go through, but.
Well, what are wild and exotic animals?
Well, some of you may know that every year when the circus comes to town,
Yes.
the circus trains actually get parked along the
I've
Grand
seen
Junction
them. I
Railroad.
have a great picture of one of those.
And
It's Ringling, Barnum
the
and
Ringling
Wrigley.
yeah, and-
Wait, what are they? What's the name?
The Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey
Barnum and
Circus.
Bailey's, yeah.
And some of the circus people, they live in the trains in a siding right over there on the Grand Junction Railroad down by MIT here in
great to
good
see
old
the
Cambridge,
train.
Massachusetts, home of circuses at least once a year. And they do the parading of the elephants.
And there's been bills in the legislature for years now to try to
I know.
deal with that.
So, should this go through, we might.
So are elephants wild and exotic animals?
Well, I would say so.
Oh.
Yeah. So you see, these are some serious repercussions should this legislation go
See,
forward.
I don't think that house and domestic animals should be in traveling circuses either.
No canaries.
Okay, don't you wish we had a guest now?
Susana Sagat has proposed the banning of little kitty cats in traveling circuses.
We will have a guest next
Make a
week.
note of it. Yes.
We promise.
All right. And yes, and
The dance party.
And that's right. Friday, June 27th. I think it sort of starts off around 7 o'clock.
Well, that's when it's fun, because before all the crowds come in.
Yeah, and it's actually been exploding in popularity. It becomes sort of, people
So that's why
tweet it
come
all over
early.
creation. And you start seeing people streaming out of the subways coming in from Boston and elsewhere.
Yeah, that's not as
and they
much
just
fun.
pack
You
the-
can't move.
Pack the place, yeah. But so it's
Come early.
it's quite the event. They
There's
close,
a DJ.
They close off Mass Ave from from Prospect up to
In front of City
in the
Hall.
other direction, in front of City Hall. Yeah. So anyway, that's coming up here.
And you have to dance. You can't just sit there and watch.
I never dance.
I know.
Yeah. But here's a sort of from the natural world. I'll just sort of mention here that if anybody wants to take I did this past Thursday, take a walk over the Charles River Dam. All right, the new Charles River Dam.
I don't know where that is.
You'll see one of my favorite.
Where is that?
It's just downstream from the Museum of Science.
Oh, yes.
You can actually walk over the locks, and
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's around this time of year. The sort of rule of thumb is that the fish migrate upstream approximately between Mother's Day and Father's Day.
That's appropriate.
I sort of like it, the spawning occurring between Mother's Day and Father's Day. And they have to get upstream. And
So the dam screws that up.
well, there is a fishway, but the fishway is
Fishway?
an absolute death trap. I did contact DCR yesterday, and I'm getting a good response, and we'll maybe do something about it. But in the meantime,
What does that mean?
Well, there's a fish ladder, so fish can kind of swim
Yeah.
up. That's in theory, but it doesn't work. It's all clogged up, and if any fish that go in there meet certain death. However, there is a perfectly
And yet we care about wild and exotic animals
no,
and
and
traveling
I'll
through-
tell you why.
Okay.
Because it's a dam, there are locks. So the lock tenders, for as far back as I can remember, what they do is they open the lock gates
And
to
let
the
the fish
ocean,
in?
and the fish come swimming into the locks. They close the lock gate, they lift them up, and carry them
Oh,
into the
that
Charles River.
is a good
So if you
story.
walk over the Charles River Dam, over the locks, you can see thousands of fish piled into the locks.
That is cool.
And everybody who walks over the locks.
So what day is that? What is that?
Well, I don't know. We have to discuss this with the fish. Don't you think that would be simple common courtesy? No, it's happened. Well, it was certainly still happening Thursday, and there were a lot of fish in
You've
there.
seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it many times, and I saw it this past Thursday.
And you can
Yeah.
actually see them?
Oh, you can see there are thousands of them, and some predator birds are sort of like eyeing them and plopping down and sort of getting interested. But yeah, the fish will just go sort of circling around there, waiting for them to open the gates, and then
All right,
they
you
lock
gotta
them
see
through.
that.
So that's essentially the Charles River fish ladder, is the lock,
That is
the middle
really
lock
neat.
of the three locks, right?
So if any of you go and see that, call us and let us know how it went.
Actually, if you want to see another sort of wonderful display, take a drive or a bike ride up to the Watertown Dam.
It's not in Cambridge.
No, it's not. Well, that's okay. We can,
All right,
it's
fine.
Cambridge Inside Out. This is the out
Out.
part. See, so the fish come in, and then they gotta go out, or we call it Cambridge Inside Up, upstream. How about that?
All right, fine.
All right. So anyway, if you go up there, the fish then will try and
And
get
where
up.
is that?
It's just right around Watertown Square, just slightly upstream from Watertown Square, a few blocks up. And
Upstream from Watertown Square?
well, the Charles River goes right alongside
Oh, yes,
Watertown Square,
okay.
right where Galen
Okay.
Street comes in. And if you go up to there, there are fish. There is a fish ladder, and I think it works at least a little bit. But there are these ambitious fish who like to go right up over the dam, and
Wow.
it's amazing to see. And almost went there today. I may go there tomorrow, depending on the
Can
weather.
you tape it for us?
Well, maybe. I don't know. I'll look at it.
Okay.
But the fish go up, and of course, smart birds will line themselves up on top of the dam, and it's this great sight as fish will leap up, and a bird just nails it midair.
Oh, that's not a good story.
Believe me, the fish are. This is part of life. You see, it's, this
You
is.
can tell
what-
I'm a nature person.
Yeah, really. Anyway, so that's a pretty good
That's
thing.
a lot of good stuff coming up.
Definitely a lot of good stuff coming up.
Did you go to the city council meeting last night?
I did not make it to the city council meeting only because last night was the first meeting of the newly reconstituted Central Square Advisory Committee,
And
and I went to it.
how was it?
It was great. It was a couple of hours, and it's almost all new members, so I get to be sort of the institutional memory. You know. So
You're that one.
yeah, I just joked with everybody. I said, "You can call me Grandpa," right? But
So you set goals? What did you do?
no, I think the Central Square Advisory Committee has existed, sort of created as with the Central Square overlay districts some 20 years ago. It is, the sort of the kind of the official role of it has been in the past to whenever a development proposal comes, arrives in Central Square, which actually hasn't happened very often. There hasn't really been much construction in Central Square for some time. But, there would be some review. It's not binding or anything. It's an advisory committee. We write up a report, and it then goes to the planning board. Any decisions on special permits or variances are made by the appropriate bodies. But, it's a good facilitation process for, public input and whatnot.
So not to be picky, but
Yes.
does every other square have this?
Some do. I think
Why don't all of them have it?
Well, because not all squares have overlay districts. So that's a special designation in the zoning code. So
Which means what?
basically, it's in addition to the base zoning, which are residential,
Yeah.
commercial zones. There's an overlay district where there are additional provisions and allowances within the zoning code. So you can within the Central Square overlay district, there are rules that say you can do certain things. You can get a little extra height if you meet certain conditions and apply for
I
special
see.
permits. So it's just a little extra rules that gives the city a little more flexibility. But there's an intention now. I think it'll actually happen. There are some what they call non-zoning recommendations that came out of the so-called K2C2 process,
Mhm.
Kendall Square, Central Square, that happened over the last few years. So nothing to do with zoning per se, but things about placemaking, transportation-related things, just sort of making for a more interesting place. And it has been suggested that maybe the Central Square Advisory Committee might take on some of those responsibilities, not in any binding way, but just to make recommendations. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. So we'll meet more frequently and make that happen. So that's why I wasn't at City Hall last night. And I kind of wanted to go to City Hall because there were some interesting things going on, but
Yeah, and I missed
but
it
we ran a little
altogether.
late. Well, there were a couple of interesting things happen. So actually, we can get to a bunch of them, but at least one of them was related to elections.
Good.
So far, our next, I feel like we should be like John McLaughlin. Next topic, or what does he say? Issue 2, right? Issue 2, elections.
We're not doing that.
No, we're not doing that. Okay.
We are having a guest next week.
We promise. Now, maybe you know more than I about what's up. There's a Democratic convention coming up.
Yep, next week.
Soon.
Not this weekend, but the one after.
So that's
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th?
Saturday the 14th.
That doesn't bode well.
Well, for who?
I don't
for
know.
the people who go, or the people?
Right.
Friday night is really a way to get you up there. So they do
Right.
some speeches. And
This is in Worcester or Springfield?
It's in Worcester this year. Yeah.
Right.
And then all of the campaigns and all of the people running for office, they have get-togethers so that they can grab the delegates and try to convince them to give them a vote.
The last big push.
So that's Friday night. And then Saturday morning, a lot of them will have breakfasts for people to do the same, to educate the electorate. And then Saturday morning, the real business comes on. I mean, they might have some vote. I actually should have paid attention to the rules this year because they changed them, and there might be some important vote on Friday, but most of the work happens Saturday morning.
I was scouring around today looking to see if there's been any recent polling on the various gubernatorial candidates and others, and I could find almost nothing.
The last one I saw was for the gubernatorial one, and it had Martha Coke for the general vote. I think
Right.
Martha Coakley was at 51 and Grossman was at 7, and everyone else was under 7.
Right. Yeah, I think they said something like Martha had a 40 percentage point lead, but until I saw it was like 50 to 10,
Yeah.
more or less. So it was a big one.
The thing is, the delegate count will probably
That's
not
very
be the
different.
same.
Yeah, I mean, this is just sort of a popular poll, but the convention is
It's a voters
often,
poll, really.
Exactly. So the convention often could be the exact opposite, depending on who's got the better organization
Well,
leading up.
and I know that Grossman has been a big part of the party for many
Right.
years. He was the head of the Democratic Party. So he has a lot of friends, and they might vote for him.
All right. I think it's probably assured he'll get. You need to get 15% of the votes, if I'm correct,
On the first ballot, to get on the ballot.
to get on the ballot for September.
Correct.
Right.
Well, I don't know, ever.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So I think common sense is that Martha Coakley and Steve Grossman
Will
will get the
get the
15%. So 15%. So the interesting thing will be to see if any of the others go in.
Well, the interesting thing to see will be, will either one of them get 50%,
which would get you
an endorsement.
an endorsement.
So you can say, I might only have 7% of the popular vote, but that I'm the Democratic Party's
nominee. Yeah. So
And then the other question is, will the other 3 Democratic candidates for governor get the 15% to get on the ballot? They've been working like crazy up until now. They've been raising money and going to house parties, and this is their roadblock.
That's
they
right.
get the 15% or they go home.
and it's interesting to see how it shapes up, because if, for example, you had I don't know how the Julia KM voters compare with the Martha Coakley voters, but just in sort of raw gender-based matters, if you had like one male candidate on the ballot, 2 women, that would be something Mr. Grossman would love, because
So will he throw some delegate votes at her?
right, for example, just to sort of help split the votes. So there's a little bit of
See,
gamesmanship
right,
potentially here.
right. Yeah, and who knows? I mean, and it's all we're not in the back room, so we don't know. We're just guessing.
That's
But
right.
that's what
If
happened
we were in
with...
the back room, we'd be smoking cigars here, right?
Exactly.
So,
So like when Elizabeth Warren and Marissa
Tomei,
DeMarco
excellent actress.
ran against each other for Congress, no,
Right.
for Senate.
Right.
They went to the convention, and Elizabeth Warren got more than 15% of the vote, and Marissa did not.
There you go.
So she did not get on the
There
ballot.
you go.
And this year, well, that was a big issue in the Republican convention. Charlie Baker got more than 15% of the ballot, and Fisher did not.
Right.
And so there was a debate because he was really close, and I think that they decided that he can be on the ballot.
Right.
So it's a big day for
Definitely
elections.
big day. Now, another thing that happened recently, we sort of knew it was coming for a while, but now it's official, was both branches of the legislature passed some form of election reform.
Yep.
Really, the lesser of the two, really just two things that they could get common agreement on when it's on
Yep.
so-called early voting, which I think is early voting just means
Means you can vote a few days before the actual day.
it's not quite the same
It's
as
not early
this.
registration.
Right. And I think that's only applies, I don't know if it applies to all elections or state elections or presidential
Yeah.
elections.
And you know, I actually printed out that bill to read it and sound like I know what I'm saying here, but it's really thick and I didn't get the chance. So for the next show,
We'll do it.
hopefully the governor will, I don't think the governor's voter signed it yet.
I don't know if he has or hasn't, actually.
So-
But, I
We'll know
imagine
more
he
next
would.
one.
The-
And then the early registration for...
Pre-registration
for young
like high
people.
schoolers. So, yeah, just sort of
Is a
get
good
your
thing.
yeah, get yourself pre-registered, and then when you turn 18, you become registered.
Right. Now, I think a while back when we had Senator DiDomenico on the show, he talked about this a little bit, and about the differences between the House and the Senate on the two different bills. And
Right.
some of them wanted to have early registration and other things. And so the conference committee met and came out with this one that they both, House and Senate,
Yeah, I
passed.
had all agreement on that.
So we'll have to get an update on that.
Right. Now, another election-related matter was a city council order from, was it February, looking into changes in the municipal elections. There are actually two municipal election-related items here. One was a suggestion to change from the so-called Cincinnati method for ballot transfers
What
in
is
PR.
that?
Well, it's complicated. But it's a method of
Just
doing...
give them a short little...
It's a method for dealing with surplus ballots in the proportional representation elections that we know and love in
We
Cambridge.
love them.
But there was a proposal to switch to what's known as fractional transfer. Now, that's a show in itself, just to sort of talk about the details. But it was referred to the city manager to get some report. There was some report came back.
Sounds like fracking, actually. It doesn't sound good at all.
But it laid out what would be involved in making the change, should there be a change, but also a suggestion to sort of follow up by having consultants with various people. So I've actually met with the city manager and elections officials. And
I'm
sort
really
of-
proud of you for calling him
Yeah.
city manager. Thank you.
Richie, hey Richie. So anyway, there's at least some thinking and discussion going on here about whether to proceed, what would be involved, and
if we can do it, right?
and if we can do it. There's actually one of the ticklish parts about this is the matter of the legal right under the state constitution to a manual recount. And what would that actually mean in the context of a fractional ballot transfer? It's kind of a hard thing to replicate by hand.
Yeah.
I think it might be doable, but it would be it just has never been done, never even been conceptualized here. So there's some things that need to be talked about.
But it's good that people are thinking about this.
I think it's good to talk about, to think about it, and also, if I had my greatest wish, it would be if there was some sort of public forum where we could have like topic of the week where we had a group of people sort of get together and just sort of discuss this in some
That's a good
rational
idea.
way. So
We should do the same with the popular vote for mayor.
right, actually it's interesting. The two ideas are kind of similar in the sense that whenever there's sort of some controversy over the direct election of the mayor, people get all worked up about it, and then 2 months later they forget all about it.
Yeah.
Just like here, it was a recount. Everybody thought about this, and maybe now, a couple months from now, nobody's going to care at all. But anyway, it's worth.
Well, we still care. We're just not
we're just not animated about it. Another item which you do, again, could also be a discussion for an entire show is a proposal came out mid-May for public financing for municipal elections, which is a rather
what does
big...
that mean?
Well,
that
I don't
sounds
think...
really tricky.
It is very tricky. Nobody's really sort of said exactly what it would mean, but, there was, at the state level, there was a clean elections law.
That really worked out well.
It didn't kind of disappeared quick, actually. But there have been places where public financing of elections. I'm a little skeptical about how it would work in a Cambridge context when you've got a proportional representation style elections. I mean, so the worst case scenario I had was say, okay, well, every candidate's going to get $2,000. So I get 10 people, round them up and says, quick, let's just sign up here. We'll each get $2,000. We'll form a slate. And the next thing you know, there's going to be 65 candidates on the ballot, just so everybody can be eligible for the money. So anyway, I think a little discussion is in order, right? Yeah. So it's been referred to the Government Operations Committee, and I'm sure.
Put it to study.
Yeah, as we head into the summer, there'll be some discussions about that. So anyway, that's. But
can I tell you something? We just, with these little announcements, we did the whole show.
Oh my gosh!
Look at that.
Wow. So anyway, but we'll be back in 3 minutes.
And
3 whole minutes.
Yeah, and our polling says that we should take the curtain down.
You think so?
Yeah, it's 3 to 4.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
4 to 3.
I have no idea what polling is going on.
This is Cambridge Inside and
Out.
And we're out in a second.
Except we've got 5 seconds to go. See you in a few minutes. All right.
My glasses are crooked. My shirt is crooked. I'm totally crooked today.
It looks so good on TV.
I'm so crooked.